Hi, in this video, we will see how to do Azure Policy as code with using Azure DevOps pipelines. Here we will see how we need to set up the project on Azure DevOps, how to write the code of Terraform which can do a Azure Policy as a code, and then how to build the Azure DevOps pipeline which can do a CI/CD on the Azure environment, and we also experiment the Azure Policy, how does it works. So basically in this video you will see a developer who is coding with the IDE VS Code. He will write the Azure Policy as a code, and then it will be synced to the Azure DevOps. So with using the Azure DevOps pipeline, we're going to release the policy as a code. So where we see that the policy is being deployed with using Terraform and assigned on a Azure subscription with using again Terraform. And we also see like a demo of how does this policy actually does its job, that is whether deny, append, deploy if not exist. So those are all nothing but actions of Azure Policy that you can use it. So here we will see like how we can set up this particular Azure Policy as code with using Azure DevOps. So I am in my Azure DevOps organization. So as you see, this is my Azure DevOps organization. So in this one, I have a project called Cloud Quick Labs ADO. In that one, for this particular policy as code, I have created a repository called Azure Policies DevOps, and this is the source code. This is the repository which contains the source code for Azure Policy definition and assignment, and Azure pipeline, which will do the CI/CD of that. So now, what I do is, I'm gonna show you the complete code walkthrough, and then we will see a demo of pipeline, and then we're gonna see the the realizing the how the Azure policy is working in the Azure, in the Azure subscription. So now, for now, I have this is the repository. As I said, we have only one branch for the purpose of the demo. So within this branch, I have the folder structure. So I have created a folder structure called governance policies, and underneath that, I have created a further folder called JSON, as you see here, and that JSON contains the further subfolder, and I have created these subfolder for dedicatedly for storing the Azure policy definition related supporting files. When you define Azure policies are considered as Azure custom policies, you need to have the three things. One is Azure policy rule definition. Then you need to have the parameters.json file, which will define your parameters for the Azure policy, and then of course the metadata that is needed for orchestration of your Azure policies. Now those three JSON files are kept in the JSON folder, a separate folder for per policy definition. So here I am creating an Azure policy which will regulate the Azure AI services creation in the Azure subscription. How? We have defined a Azure policy in a such a way that it will allow the users to create a Azure AI services in a dedicated resource group only, but it will stop in the other not allowed RGs. So that is the definition we have written, and this is the folder structure I have carried out for this particular demo, right? So again, I am going to create a end-to-end tutorial for Azure DevOps. It is coming up in line basically. So to understand how you need to work with the Azure DevOps, so you can watch that particular tutorial when it comes. But for now, just to get your work done that on the Azure policy as a code, this is what I'm focusing in this particular video, right? So that is what all about the file structure. Now let's go to the further one. So here remember that Azure, the governance policy is nothing but I just kept the name as governance policy, and this folder structure is orchestrating the all policy things needed in the Azure DevOps. It includes Terraform file, it includes pipeline file as well. Now with that said, let me show you the Terraform files. So underneath the governance policy folder, we have a file name called Azure AI Service Enablement underscore policy assignment. So this is my the assignment policy Terraform file. I am creating a dedicated Terraform file for policy assignment and policy definition, so that it becomes easy for orchestration in the lifecycle management. All right, so now we have another file for definition as well, which creates that policy. And now let me go to the parameters. So this is the parameters values.json file. It is the parameters that is needed for the the Terraform init, Terraform plan, and Terraform apply. So generally we use the plan in the Terraform. Generally we use the the parameters values.json file in the plan stage, while apply stage is not required. How it is not required, I'm going to show you down the line. For now, just understand the folder structure. Now we have the the providers.tf file. So this is where we are actually declaring the providers of the Terraform, and this is the our but bread and butter, I would say. That is basically, this is an YAML file which declares the Azure DevOps pipeline. So here I have created two stages. One is for Terraform plan and the other one is for Terraform apply. Why? Because so that somebody has to approve during the plan as well. So that's the reason this is the Azure DevOps pipeline. And then let's go to the variables. Okay. All right. So this is the my the folder structure which I have shown you in the Azure DevOps portal directly. Now let me take you to the IDE side. So now I have cloned that repository in the VS Code, and now I am doing the proper the coding of that, whatever changes I need to do in the file. I'm going to do it from the IDE, which is follows the best practices of development any kind of code. So here is a VS Code tool I'm using from my laptop to develop the codes basically, and that's where the the developer is using this tool as an handy. Now let's try to walk through these definition, and we modify slight changes in this one, and then we see that demo of this particular pipeline. All right. So now, as I said, let's try to understand what is the policy rule. Okay. So as I walked you through the the folder structure, now I'm going to directly jump to the explanation of what is I'm doing in a real term, right? So first one, let's try to understand what is the policy rule I have defined. So if you see here, this is purely a JSON file and it follows a JSON syntax. And here, if you go into this particular policy rule, so it has a plain policy rule definition. So as you might be knowing, Azure policy has a certain actions to perform when certain conditions are being met, right? So here I'm declaring the conditions in the if block, if you see here, and that is all accumulated in all of. What does that mean is, if all of these are true, then you go ahead and deny, like that. Yeah. So here this policy is checking the certain fields. So if you want to use the Azure policy, you need to read the Azure policy document from Microsoft, because that helps you to understand how the policy definition works, what are the key syntax, what are the keywords that you need to define in the policy, how you have to define the Azure policy. That has been declared in the Microsoft Azure policy document, where you need to study. Now I'm going to walk you through for this particular case to understand how it is being used. So here I'm using a keyword called field in the Azure policy, where field is equal to type. So what does that mean is, whenever you create a Azure resources, it creates an ARM template. The ARM template contains a the field called type, and that type declares what is that resource type that you are creating in the Azure. So based on that, this is what the syntax is being used in the Azure policy. That is field. I'm going to show you this when I show you the demo. So field, in the sense, if the type of the resource that you are creating is belongs to in this category or in this list, say if you are deploying any cognitive services or search services, machine learning bot services, or open AI services, so which means that this condition gets true, right? And so whatever the number of the dictionaries that you keep in this particular list, so each dictionary is nothing but one condition check. So here it is checking the if the type of the particular resource is falls under this one, which means this condition is true. And then comma means it is and. Okay, so we will consider it as a and condition. And if the another condition, that is resource group in which that resource is being deployed, is not in this one, then only then only basically you allow it, or else you're going to deny it. So that is what the meaning comes for this particular policy rule. Then action is actually deny. If you see not in the sense, if it is not in this list, then this value becomes true, then only it will go ahead and enforce the effect here is deny, in the sense it will deny that action. Even owner, even enterprise access cannot perform these resource actions or resource creation in general, right? So that is what the policy rule is talks about. Let's go to the parameter. So here I'm declaring only one parameter, that is actually a list, and that list is asking for allowed resource group. So we have seen in the policy rules that it is expecting a allowed resource group as a list, right? And that list will be declared in the parameters.json file, right? And that is where the type is equal to array, and this is the metadata we are declaring. The metadata.json file is again it is another form of the JSON file that you can use it while declaring the definition. So what does that mean is, you define the policy in a parameterization way, and you can reuse it for multiple types of assignments. That is the theory behind it. Okay, for now let's ignore the another folder because it does not contain anything. Let's go to the another one, that is where we are now touching base upon the Terraform file. Now if you think a little bit here, we are actually dealing with two types of Terraform resources. One is to create a policy definition with using those JSON files that is present in the GDP 001 Azure source folder, service enablement folder. And then the another resource is basically assign the policies on the subscription. In my Azure tenant or in my Azure subscription, I have only one Azure subscription. So that's the reason I'm not assigning this policy or declaring these policies on the management group, only in terms of on the subscription. That's the reason you see that I have a resource type called Azure RM subscription policy assignment, and this is the variable name, and these are all the parameter name which I'm passing here to create a policy subscription assignment. Right now let's go to the definition and we will come back to the policy assignment again. So here if you see the resource type, this is nothing but policy definition. This is the variable name of this particular resource. Within this flower bracket braces, we are giving the parameters needed for this particular resource type. Of course the one is you need to have the name policy type which is custom, because we are declaring the rule and we are using it. And then the index is mode is indexed, description, definition. Now let's go to those three files. We declared the metadata in a JSON file. Now that file is been referenced with using the file function of the Terraform and passing the path of this particular directory. So this is how so basically remember that this is how you need to provide the file path present in your folder structure. So it might change in your folder structure, make it changes according to that. Then this is where we are passing the rule as well and the parameter as well. Now once this policy definition has been done, if you go back to the rule, if you go back to the policy assignment, that is Azure subscription policy assignment. So this is where we are consuming the policy definition that we declared just now, and it is been assigned on the subscription level because this is a subscription policy assignment. And the parameters passed here is nothing but parameter that I'm going to keep it in the parameters.values.json. Now you see that in the definition it consumes the values of the parameter, that is general, environmental, and short name, right? And in the assignment we are using the we are giving the subscription ID plus some, we are giving the subscription ID by the way, and plus short name, right? So those values are now kept in a JSON file. Remember that you can declare these values in the the TFR files, but TFR file is not flexible enough as JSON file, because in JSON file you can properly declare a value of a variable is whether string, whether a list, whether a dictionary, something like that, in terms of Python programming language, right? So if you see here, I am declaring the a variable called general, a key called general, and that has a value of a dictionary, and then a dictionary, or you can call it as a hash table, whatever it is, right? Then again it has an internal key called environment. The value is again further divided into something like that. You see that there is a proper nesting. So with this approach you can properly define the values of the variables that you declare for your Terraform. So that's the reason I am recommending you to use parameters values.json file as the value file of the Terraform code. Next one is policy. So you see that in the policy, so here we have created one policy and that constitutes the allowed values. Okay, so this is how it will give me the allowed values as well. So again you can change it according to your naming conventions as well. So that is all about the parameters that variable values. Now with that said, let's go back to the assignment and try to identify what is that I'm doing. Now if you see general dot environment dot id, so what does that mean is it is retrieving this value. Yeah, so if you go to the policy assignment, so we have a variables, you should use variable dot general and then go to the environment short name, so similarly id, right? And policies, and this is the policy. So this is how basically you are getting the values of the particular key. So it's very simple, you just use a that annotation to just retrieve the values of the Terraform variables. Now we go to the provider. So this is very simple provider. It contains the required provider list, that is Azure RM, and the backend is I'm using the storage account as the backend here, so that's the reason Azure RM backend, and provider is Azure RM provider, as simple as that. Now let's go to the the variables, and then I will come back to the pipeline, that is Azure pipeline. So here I am declaring my variable, very simple, so there is no confusion here. You just declare the variables equal to a map in the Terraform, and which is very simple. So if you are using JSON as your the parameter values file. You just have to declare the the map. Very simple. So if I can go back and try to show, so if you go back to our parameter.values file, so it contains two keys. In the sense, look at the outer flower brackets, and it contains two important keys called general, which has a map again, and policies is again map again. So in terms of Terraform data type, and that is what been declared and consumed in the Terraform. Very, very simple. So you can use it, and there is no confusion with this format of using. So that's all about the Terraform. Now let's go back to the Azure DevOps pipeline. So here I'm using Microsoft hosted agent to run the Terraform init, validate, plan, and apply. How I'm doing that? That is what I'm going to walk you now. So here, this is my Azure DevOps pipeline. So now I will create another tutorial for Azure DevOps pipeline and in regards to the Azure DevOps, very detailed. So you can expect me, explaining in more details in that video. But for now, we just quickly go ahead with the policy, with the Azure DevOps pipeline here for policy deployment. So here we have the Azure policy deployment as code pipeline. So this is the trigger point I have added here. The folder structure. So if you see, right, so this is basically a single repo, multiple pipeline. If you want to use the single repo which contains multiple pipeline, you have to separate the pipeline with the folder structure. So here I am declaring the governance policy as one stream of code in the repository. So that's the reason I am declaring the folder value called governance policy, and that's how the Terraform init, plan, and apply gets initiated by that folder context, right? So here we are actually creating a stages. If you see here, one is for the plan, and the other one is for deploy. So generally this is how the Terraform will be recommended to the deploy the so infrastructure as a code in a two stages. Have your first stage talking about plan, get that validated, then only you do a apply. So that is what my recommendation is all about. Now here, this is the stage where we are doing a simple Terraform plan. So this is my stage name. This is a condition just to check it. Then within this particular stage, I have a job called plan. So display name is Terraform plan. It is runs on a Microsoft managed agent called Ubuntu latest. It has the Terraform installation. So if you want to use the Terraform in your Azure DevOps pipeline, you make sure that the extension. So in the sense, if you go to the marketplace, in the marketplace, you make sure that a Terraform by Microsoft DevLabs should be installed on your organization. So this is my organization. I went to my marketplace, and then I installed a Terraform Microsoft DevOps. So that's the reason I should, when I have enabled that extension on my Azure DevOps, then only it is allowed me to declare or use the Terraform commands in my Azure DevOps pipeline. So that's the reason we have one task for installation, one task for init. So here we have the Azure RM backend. So if you see the provider equal to Azure RM, it has the init command. So this is my service action. So I'm using the Azure RM service action here. Basically, the service connection. So I'm using the built-in service connection to get the authentication to my Azure subscription or my tenant. So here I'm using the Azure SPN and client ID based, which I'm going to show you in a minute after this. So here, this is the RG name, this is the backend Azure RM resource group name, storage account name, the state file, then the policy. So likewise, okay. And this is the working directory. Why? Because as I said, we are segregating by the folder structure. So if I close everything, so everything is been sitting underneath that folder structure. So okay, that is the enterprise standard, I would say, and it is very flexible. You can use it. Now let's go to the next ahead. That is, here is a validate we are doing for the same syntax, and this is a plan task. You see that the task is same, but the input values are changing according to the according to the task of the Terraform. That is whether it is a init, plan, and apply. So here, now in the apply stage, the only apply changes. Okay, so I will gonna share this link in the video's description. You can try to find it out. Okay, for now, this is how we have declared it. Okay, now let's go to the the Azure DevOps, and I'm going to show you the service connection. So if I go to the Azure DevOps project, go to the go to the project basically. So I'm going to go to this project. So I'm going to that particular project, and go to the project settings. In the project settings, you have a service connections. So this is the service connections I have created for this particular demo. So if you see here, so this is my the environment equal to Azure Cloud. This is the server URL. I'm using the scope equal to subscription. This is my subscription ID. right? And rest all is the client ID and the tenant ID, like that. So secret is secret, I'm not going to show you. So when you verify it, it should be verified, then only it will work. Okay, so that is the service connection I have built it. Now we have made slight changes. Let's try to merge that changes and we go for a demo. So I'm going to merge these changes right away. I'm going to sync it to the upstream branch. So the downstream branch right now is main. So when I did a sync, which is nothing but it did a push. So that's the reason you should use the VS Code for IDE work. Okay, so because so that you should not worry about the git commands and beat around the bush. Okay, for now let's try to so now right now we have made the synchronization. So now my code is being synced. Now let me go to the pipeline here. So I need to go to the my Azure policies pipelines, and here I'm going to run this particular pipeline on my branch, and let's see what does it happens now. So I'm going to show you the live demo here. So I'm clicking on the Terraform plan stages. Our pipeline had the two stages as you see here, and the stage has the jobs as well. So that's the reason it is currently working. So here we are using the Microsoft hosted agents to do these particular activities. So here it is the Terraform install. Now it is running the task Terraform init. Terraform init is completed. It is done with the validate. Now it is performing the plan as you see here. Now once the plan is been done, if Terraform plan goes succeed, then only the Terraform apply stage will go ahead. We see here, so it has created a plan because, and you see that there are no changes because I have already previously deployed. Now it is going ahead with the Terraform apply because the Terraform plan condition got passed, right? So if it Terraform plan got failed, it would have not been going to the next stage, that is develop apply stage. Right now it is doing the same stage, same activity like in it validate, plan, and apply. So since there is nothing to change, so basically the apply will be very quick. Now I'm going to take you to the my the my Azure subscription. And we're going to experiment this particular rule. So if you see here, it has done the plan now. Now it is executing for apply as you see here, and the apply has been done. Now let's go to the my Azure subscription. So this is my Azure subscription. I have only one subscription, by the way. So here we have created a policy and the policy is already assigned. Now let's try to explore that policy. So if I go to the my subscription and we go to the we go to the policies, right? And in this policies, you should be able to see the your definition, that is a custom definition. So you can maybe you can filter it out like this, called custom definitions. And there, here you should have the policy definition that we just now declared, and that should have its own assignment as well. So let's try to see that. So this is the custom policy definition, and in this one, so we have a policy definition name called Azure AI, which is the one we have created now. So it has this many definitions as you see here, and it has its own assignment which has been assigned here. And it has the parameter value which we passed is equal to the RG. Now if I go to the particular RG, so what does this policy talks about? As I explained, if you try to create the AI services, only the allowed RG is allowed. But if you try to create AI services in the not allowed region, it should block it. So let's try to explore that right away. So I'm going to go ahead and try to create Azure AI services in not allowed regions. So I'm going to choose the not allowed region, that is default RG, and we're going to choose something random names pricing tier. Let it be standard. We go next, next, and review it. So here I'm expecting that review should be failed because we have not changed to not allowed RG. So if you see here, Azure AI services allowed. So basically this is how you are managing the Azure policy as a code from the beginning. Now let's try to check for the valid cases. So valid cases is the the resource group which is allowed. So this is the another RG where I have allowed in the policy in the policy assignments. Now that has gone green and it has not shown any error, which means that our policy is working. Now before I conclude this call, I would like to show you the the backend as well. So this is the storage account which I was pointing. In this when I have a container called the test one, the tf state, and then this is where our policies.tf state file is being kept in. Okay, so all right, so with that note, I have shown you the things not to be showed in this video. A kind request, please do subscribe my channel, that would really encourage me a lot. So with that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.